As if it already hasn't been enough fun, it's going to be even more fun, or maybe fun in another direction here on this Friday morning on the Rod Pedersen Show. We are in the bunker in a field in Western Canada. That's all you need to know. And I want to thank the great guests on the program today already. Ray Jacobs, Brother Jake, who was just in here, Darian Durant, Chris Getzlaff, John Frenzy, and Darren Dupont rejoins us in the bunker. We're pleased to be joined by Craig McMorris, professional snowboarder, sports broadcaster, and the better looking of the McMorris boys.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to take that. I'm going to run with it. That's a very nice compliment. Thank you, Rod. I don't fill out this chair quite as good as Big Jake's, Brother Jacobs.
How ripped is he?
This is his poor legs were just sucked in here. I feel like a shrimp right now, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. But thanks for having me on the program. It's a pleasure to be here.
Craig, I'm going to tell you something about yourself, your family that you may not know, but you should.
Okay.
It's your dad's birthday today.
It is my dad's birthday.
Did you know that?
I did. I gave him a hug, high five, heading out to the lake after this, and we're going to have celebrations and all that kind of stuff. We hosted Grandma's 86th birthday out there, so our mom is exhausted and doesn't want to host, but we're bringing out a bunch of people and going to do it all over again, Rob.
It came up in my Facebook feed this morning. Don McMorris' birthday today, because you know he's something of a legend in Milestone, Saskatchewan. He was my driver's ed instructor. He was a star with the Milestone Flyers. When he was about your age, it was a big deal. And of course went on to be our MLA, Milestone Indian Head, and all the rest. Now, this farmer look you got going on, is that just for Country Thunder, or is that everyday look for Craig McMorris?
This is a necessity look. So I flew in from Vancouver. I only had one change of clothes because I was down in Vancouver doing a bunch of stuff. I hosted a conference down there, and I flew here, and everything in my closet was just this. So
Wranglers?
Wranglers, button-down shirt, and I'm comfortable in it.
Put the boots up on the table. There you go. See?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, here we go. Now we're ready. Now I'm having fun. Now we're relaxed.
You make yourself at home. Well, you found out very quickly what we're doing here.
Yep.
As Clark, our producer, says, because you wanted to know if you should take that hat off. We're like, if you're going to wear the hat out the door, wear the hat in the studio. Be yourself. Hence my Regina Pats golf shirt that I picked up yesterday. And thanks for the discount, Crystal, in the Pats store.
It looks great, by the way.
Yeah, I love it. The Pats, obviously my favorite team. But Red Bull, you guys are big with Red Bull, aren't you?
We are.
Really big.
We are, because they have supported us, Mark and myself, for our entire career. You know, they've done so much good for us. They have rehabbed us back from broken legs and broken bodies and all that kind of stuff, and invested in us, and we've invested in them, and they have supported every single one of our foundation galas and softball tournaments. So they have been with us since day one. I like to call them my ride or dies. You know, they're going to stick it out to the end.
I love it.
Anyway,
we all need those. We all need those.
Exactly.
Well, my first, I guess, interaction with Mark was quite a few years, or not quite a few, but a few years ago at the Red Bull sponsored Wings for Life, the World Run in Saskatoon, which was super cool. The run they have all over the world, but they all start at the same time. And you're racing against that catcher car or whatever that chases you down. And I think it was like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. that we were running. It was pretty neat. I don't know if you were at that one or not.
I was.
Okay.
It started at 3 a.m, but I had a sprained ankle, but that was the first one that Red Bull had done. So they put everything into it. Every athlete is going to run, going to do all these things. I was the first one to be caught by the catcher car. I made it 500 meters, and I think the winner made it like 2 marathons. He ran 2 marathons, so I was last. He was first, and it was at 3 a.m. because obviously every single race starts at the same time. The headquarters for Red Bull is in Austria, so they wanted to start at noon in Austria, and then obviously work back from there everywhere else. That was a cool event. Still going.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
This is Craig McMorris in studio for those online-only listeners that can't see who we've got on the air today. You and your brother making this province so proud, putting us on the map worldwide. We think about it all the time, how proud of you both that we are. What is life like for a professional snowboarder, particularly when it's 31 degrees and sunny like today? When there's no snow on the ground, what are you guys doing?
Life is nice right now. I do love snowboarding, but it was a very long winter. And when it's your job, it's really fun. But there's also huge parts of it where it's really gnarly and scary, and you have to, push yourself and push what people think the sport should be at and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice to take a little break in the summer, come out to the cottage, see everybody, see all the friends you grew up with and stuff like that, and have a good time, and then obviously do cool shows like this.
Where are you guys at? Echo Lake?
Echo Lake, yep.
That's what I thought.
Echo Lake, yep. We went for a couple wakeboards the other day. I did a slalom water ski, and I haven't done that in a long time. Upper body, not that good. Lower body, great. I think my arms are going to fall off right now, gentlemen.
I think
really
you're above average upper body strength, I would suggest. But of all these, because I'll be honest, extreme sports, so out of the realm of what I'm used to. Mm-hmm. I often say I speak Canada's 2 official sports languages, hockey and football. Anything other than that, I got a bit of a, I can talk, I can hold my own in baseball, I'm learning lacrosse, basketball, yes. Extreme sports, I don't know much about it. So let me ask you this. When you do these media events, what's the question you get the most, and you're doing them all over, that you're tired of answering?
The one question I'm the most tired of answering, that's a really good question, actually. That makes me think, is how people group it all together, right? Like, skateboard, snowboard, like it's all
right.
It's this thing. It's like the difference is football. Snowboarding's football, skateboarding's hockey, BMX is lacrosse, Moto X is, lawn bowling, for lack of a better term. But you know what I'm saying? They're very, very different. And when you dive into it, you see these personalities. You see what countries are talented at what. It was funny when you were talking to Ray about Mexican and European CFLers, That's just like, a southern hemisphere country. They have a lot of snow and they still do it, but there's really no pro snowboarders from southern hemisphere countries like a Chile or an Argentina or something like that. So there's so unique, the sports, and the more you dive into it, you find those uniquenesses.
What's the one extreme sport, or the one sport that you kind of wish you had done, or that you'd like to do more of? I remember when I was watching, when it was first really coming in and starting to be on mainstream television and stuff, I always thought the street luge, where they're on their back, right? And I always thought that would be the most fun to do of all the sports.
The one where they're like going down the mountain with like full leather and
exactly, and they're leaning, exactly.
Your skin. That's the most fun for you?
Well, I just thought that would be so cool. So I went out to the street and I'm like, get on the wagon or the skateboard or wherever you lay down. It's not the same.
No.
It only goes for about 20 seconds, if that. But I always thought that would be fun.
I think I would step away from that. I respect that answer. For me, it was skateboarding, because we wakeboarded and we did all this kind of stuff at the cabin. And skateboarding is, of all the action sports, I'm going to check my answer right now. I'm sorry. Sorry to the listeners. I'm going to change it. I'm not a liar. Surfing. We're so far away from the ocean, and when you do start to learn how to surf and you get it and you do it a little bit, you realize how insanely difficult it is. And it's the 10,000 hour rule plus 5. You need to do it for 15,000 hours, because not only do you have to be good, you have to understand your terrain. Snowboarding, you have to understand read terrain, all that kind of stuff, but the terrain isn't changing instantly. Surfing was the wildest one. So I'm really ecstatic. That's in the Olympics in 2020, Tokyo.
Oh, good.
So that'll be fun. I'm hopefully going to be calling that maybe.
It's funny that you guys must have some sort of daredevil gene in you, because I've spent considerable time on the coast and I watch the surfers, like I'm standing there 50 feet from them going, I don't even want to try that. That looks so hard.
It's insane, especially the power that the ocean has. Like once you stand there and you can hear, like, you're kilometers, miles away from the ocean and you can hear the waves crashing, you're like, I don't want to be under there right now.
Maybe I'm just getting old, because, bull riding, steer riding, you'd see people do that. I tried that. Yeah, but I'm old now. Maybe when I was your age, I would want to do these daredevil things. I just don't want to do it anymore.
We stand 10 feet, 20 feet off the shore, and a little wave takes us down. We come up with sand in our hair and stuff. Imagine being in the 10, 12, 15 footers.
It's gnarly surf.
So they still say gnarly? Is that a thing in your world?
You know what? I try to expand my vocabulary every day. So,
Gnarly's new.
If the language isn't changing, it's dead, right?
Fast Times at Ridgemont High is where I first heard that. I didn't realize they were still using it. Great movie, by the way. Some questions here from our Facebook feed. A lot. From Dan Heimbecker. What's it like watching and commentating when your brother is competing in the Olympics?
That's a good question. Thank you, Dan. It's easy, because I just go into this zone where I'm extremely analytical and responding to my color guy, right? So I'm the analyst, we got the color, and we're just bouncing back and forth. It's similar to you. Like, I feel when you're calling games, or when you were calling games, you kind of hone in, You're just like in this tunnel, and the names matter, and you know everything that they've done, and it's way easier to call Mark because I know everything about him, but you don't. There is in your stomach, you're kind of feeling, I want you to do well, but it would never come through my voice. It was never a challenge. Like, I never had to check myself. So, it's not hard to be unbiased, because it's just snowboarding. I love snowboarding. I love talking about it.
Well, not to mention, you're not judging, you're broadcasting.
True.
That would be different.
Yes.
right?
True.
The
That's
other
a really
thing,
good point.
The other thing about your brother with the incident, how tough was that for your family to go through, and how close were you to losing him? Were you close to losing him?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. There was like a Medivac flight that it was very close, like as close as you can probably be. Just so much internal bleeding and collapsed lungs and all that kind of stuff. With that much trauma, your body can fight one thing, but it can't fight them all at the same time. So that was very, very close. For the family, it was hard, but I mean, I compound fractured my leg and had to get helied out of the backcountry. He snapped his femur in LA and had to get that fixed right away. Like, injuries are part of it. You're going to get hurt. That's just the simple fact of it. To that magnitude, hopefully nobody has to go through that. So I think there was a little bit of training for us. We realized the process. It was just scary, just scary. But once you're on the other side of it, I mean, you're stronger, you're more educated about how your body works and all that kind of stuff. And you just weigh a little bit more because you got a lot of metal in you.
You sound like bull riders a little bit. Now, do you guys have a kinship with other extreme sports? Because when we went out to the PBR a month ago, it was early June in Moose Jaw, they're like, Rod, thanks for coming out here. We don't get any coverage. And and it's kind of similar to you guys. Is there a kinship?
I think so.
Sport to sport?
I think so. I love the rodeo more than anything. I was maybe going to go to Calgary Stampede to catch it today, but had Don's birthday, obviously. Not going to bail.
That's right.
And the Rod Pedersen show.
And the Rod Pedersen show, obviously. So I love the rodeo so much. Grew up in
great.
the rodeo,
Yeah.
milestone and all those kind of things. We were always on the sheep running around. And I feel like those guys don't get enough coverage because it jumps back to that question is there's just people aren't educated on the sport, Once you dive into it, there's so many intricacies and there's so many cool athletes and there's so many names that you can get behind. So I feel like there's a real kinship between maybe snowboarding in Saskatchewan and rodeo in provinces where it's not as big.
Yeah, for sure. What else do you have for Craig before we let him roll and get out to Echo Lake for Donnie Mac's birthday?
You talked about being on the water. When you get a chance to come back, this is kind of getting away from everything, right? So what's kind of on your to-do list when you get back to Saskatchewan?
See all the boys, see the family, get on the boat. Because we spent so many hours on that boat. My dad was telling me we've gone through 2 wakeboard boats in our career or whatever, and those were huge purchases for our family, huge investments. So we wanted to get out there as much as possible. So when we come back, get on the boat, go for a wakeboard, go for a wake surf, go for a water ski, and then maybe cap it off with a barefoot. We'll see.
Where is your full-time home?
Whistler, British Columbia. I've been traveling so much, so I'm not there that often. I think I've got maybe a week in total in the past 2 months, but I love it there. Best place to go home and one of the best mountains in the world.
We have a question here. I think this is from Clark. Is this your question, Clark? Yeah. What is it like from a broadcaster's perspective at the Olympics versus an athlete's perspective? Because you've done both.
Good question, Clark. It's so extremely different. Just the amount of freedom you have as a broadcaster as opposed to an athlete. As an athlete, you're in the athlete's village, you're in a bus to the event, and then when you're done, you're free, right? But you're kind of just not, for lack of a better term, you're in jail. You're in jail until you finish. Then you can go do whatever. As a broadcaster, you have responsibility and you're doing all this kind of work, but you're free to, just walk outside of your compound and go do whatever you want around the town. Like in Rio de Janeiro, for the 2016 Summer Games, we were way out in the boonies. That's where they had us. And we would just walk around and do whatever where the athletes could not leave the athlete village. So I think that's probably the biggest difference. And you're probably not as nervous because you don't have to compete in the Olympics. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely. Craig McMorris, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you,
keep
Ron.
making us proud.
Thank you.
Say hi to your dad because he was a huge influence in my youth, and that's a compliment.
I got to ask you one question, sorry, before we go.
Please do.
As a driver's ed instructor, how was he? Did you get your license first try, too?
Took three
tries.
And I will not name the town because your dad used to go to all these little towns to do the driver's ed. And he said, well, I just came from this town, and I found out they can't do driver's ed and sex ed on the same day in that town. We said, why? He said, they only got one car.
That is awesome.
And I one day I said on the radio what town that was, and I just got lambasted for bringing that up. So in the break, I'll tell you what town it was. It was Rollo. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Rollo. That's Lynch's hometown. That's why I yelled it.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.